ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नारायणं
नारायणं
नमस्कृत्यं
नमस्कृत्यं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं
नरं
चैव
चैव
नरोत्तमं
नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं
देवीं
सरस्वतीं
सरस्वतीं
व्यासं
व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
ततो
ततो
जयमुदीरये।
जयमुदीरये।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु
भद्रेषु
अभद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं
नित्यं
भागवत
भागवत
सेवया
सेवया।
भगवती उत्तमश्लोके
भगवति
भगवती
उत्तमश्लोके
उत्तमश्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति
भक्तिर्भवति
नैष्ठिकी।
नैष्ठिकी।
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, title conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. And today's verse is verse number 32. Adharmam dharmam iti ya
धर्मं
अधर्मं
धर्मम् इति
धर्मम्
या
इति या
manyate tamasavrita
मन्यते
मन्यते
तमसा वृता।
तमसा वृता।
sarvarthan viparitamscha
सर्वार्थान्
सर्वार्धान्
विपरीता च
विपरीतांश्च
buddhi partatamasi.
बुद्धि सा
बुद्धिः सा
पार्थ
पार्थ
तामसी।
तामसी।
Adharmam dharmam iti shya
अधर्मं धर्मम् इति या
manyate tamasavrita
मन्यते
मन्यते
तमसा
तमसा
वृता।
वृता।
सर्वार्थान् विपरीतांश्च
सर्वार्थान्
सर्वार्धान्
विपरीता च
विपरीतांश्च
बुद्धि स्वापार्थतामसि.
बुद्धि सा
बुद्धिः सा
पार्थ
पार्थ
तामसी।
तामसी।
Anyone would like to lead?
अधर्मं धर्मम् इति या
अधर्मं
अधर्मं
धर्मम्
धर्ममिति या
इति या
मन्यते तमसा वृता।
मन्यते
मन्यते
तमसा
तमसावृता
वृता।
सर्वार्थान् विपरीता च
सर्वार्थान्
सर्वार्थान्
विपरीतांश्च
विपरीतांश्च
च
बुद्धि सा पार्थ तामसी।
बुद्धिः सा पार्थतामसि.
अधर्मं
अधर्मं
धर्मम्
अधर्मं
धर्मम्
इति
इति
या
धर्ममिति
या
या
मन्यते
मन्यते
तमसा
तमसावृता
तमसावृता। सर्वार्थान्
सर्वार्थान्
विपरीता
विपरीतांश्च
च
विपरीतांश्च
बुद्धि
बुद्धिः
सा
बुद्धिः सा
सा
पार्थ।
पार्थ
पार्थसार.
तामसी।
Word by word meaning. Adharmam, religion.
अधर्मम
अधर्मम
रिलीजन।
रिलीजियन।
Dharmam, religion.
धर्मम
धर्मम
रिलीजन।
रिलीजियन।
Iti thus.
इति दस
Yeah, which.
या
या which
Manyate, thinks.
मन्यते
मन्यते
थिंग्स।
थिंग्स
Tamasa, by illusion.
तमसा
तमसा
बाय
by
इल्यूजन।
illusion।
Avrata, covered.
आवृता
आवृता
covered।
कवर्ड।
Sarvarthan, all things.
सर्व
सर्वार्थान ऑल
अर्थान
थिंग्स।
all things।
Viparitan,
विपरीतान
विपरीतान
in the wrong direction.
in the
इन द
wrong
रॉन्ग
direction।
डायरेक्शन।
Cha also.
च
च ऑल्सो
also
Buddhi, intelligence.
बुद्धि
बुद्धि intelligence।
इंटेलिजेंस।
Sa, that.
सा
द
that
दैट
Partha, osana pratha.
पार्थ ओसन प्रथा।
Tamasi,
तामसी
तामसी
in the mode of ignorance.
इन द
in
मोड
the
ऑफ
mode of
ignorance।
ignorance।
Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
प्रभुपाद की
Yes.
जय।
That understanding
That understanding
Understanding
which considers irreligion
which
which considers
considers
religion
irreligion
to be religion
to
to
be
be
religion
religion
and religion to be irreligion
and
and
religion
religion
to
to
be
be
irreligion
irreligion
under the spell of illusion
under
under
the
the
spell of
spell of
illusion
illusion
and darkness
and
and
darkness
darkness,
and strives always in the wrong direction.
and
and
always
strives
strives in
always
the
in
wrong
the wrong
direction.
direction.
O Partha
O
O
Partha
Partha
is in the mode of ignorance.
is
is in
in
the
the
mode of
mode of ignorance.
ignorance.
Anyone would like to Read Prabhupada's purport.
Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working the opposite of the way it should. It accepts religion which are not actually religions and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance.
Thank you very much. Let's all chant together. Agyana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya
Shalakaya
chakshurmilitam yena tasmai
Chakshurmilitamina
Sri
tasmai
Gurave
Shri
Namaha
Gurave
Sri
Namaha
Chaitanya Manovistam
Manobishtam
Stapitam Yena
Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Swayam
Yam
Rupa
Rupa
Kadamaiham
Kadamahyam
Dadati
Dadati
Swapadantikam
Swapadantikam
Vandeham Shri
Deham
Guru
Shri
Sri
Guru Shri
Utapadakamala Sri Guru
Utapadakamalam Guru
Vaishnavamsha
Vaishnavansha
Sri Rupam
Srirupam
Sagrajatam Sagana
Sagrajatam Sahagana
Raghunatam Vitam Tam
Raghunathan
Sajivam
Tam Sajivam
Sadvaitam
Sadvaitam
Savadutam Parijana
Savadutam
Sahitam
Parijana
Krishna
Sahitam
Chaitanya
Krishna
Devam
Chaitanya Devam
Sri Radha
Sri
Krishna
Radha
Padan
Krishna
Sagana
Padam
Lalita
Sagana
Sri
Lalita Shri
Vishakapadatamscha
Vishakanatamsha
He
He
Krishna
Krishna
Karuna
Karuna
Sindhu Dina
Sindhu
Bandhu Jagatpate
Jagataratpate
Gopesha
Gopesha
Gopika
Gopika
Kanta
Kanta
Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Namastute
Namastute
Tapta
Tapta
Kanchana
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 Gaurangi
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 Radhe
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 Vrindavaneshwari
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 Vrishabhanu Suti
Vishvanu Sute
Devi
Devi
Pranamami Hari
Pranamami
Pranamami
Priye
Hari
Hari
Priye
Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa
Tarubhyasya
Kalpa
Kripa
Sindhubheva
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 Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
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 Namah
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri
Hari
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhar
Gadadhara
Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Rama 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 Hare
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 Hare.
Nilachala Nivasaya
Jaya
Nitya
Nityaya
Paramatmane
Paramatmane
Balabhadra
Balabhadra
Subhadrabhyam
Subhadrabhyam
Jagadhatha
Jagannadayate
Te
Namaha.
Namo. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful weekly Sangha. And today, what a powerful verse Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about. This is the third in lines of the slokas where Krishna is explaining understanding in the mode of ignorance. Earlier, we talked about understanding in the mode of goodness in 31, 30, and 31, ignorance, sorry, understanding in the mode of passion. Today, in 32, exactly triplets, Krishna is explaining about understanding in the mode of ignorance, which is the third mode. So here, Krishna is beautifully saying, Adharmam dharma itiya manyate tamasavrita. So when a person is covered, avrata means covered, tamasavrita means in the mode of illusion. When a person's mode is covered with illusion, then he considers adharmam dharma itiya. That means he considers adharma as dharma. Sarvarthan viparitamscha means he always considers the other way. Dharma to be adharma and adharma to be dharma. And in that understanding, in that consciousness, buddhisa partha tamasi. Partha is referring to Arjuna, and Krishna is saying, in that mindset, that consideration is a mode of ignorance consideration. Very simple verse, but we'll go deep into it. Adharmam dharma itiya manyate tamashavrita sarvarthan viparita. Viparita means opposite.
Opposite.
Dharma is adharma, adharma is dharma. Very simple, but it needs some discussion. So we'll discuss a little bit about this beautiful subject matter with some examples, and hopefully that will give us some depth. So Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining, is saying, men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as great souls. So in this world, what is happening, whenever a person has some little knowledge, he considers himself to be humble And then whatever he tends to propagate, by virtue of his achar, people tend to accept. So, in that message, if the person is preaching something which is not truth, people will accept. This kind of understanding is there in 90% of human population in this age. In this age, whenever there is a mention, nowadays you are also having office get-togethers as the holidays are coming, and if you see the consciousness of people around you, you'll realize that they are absolutely in a different track, and it's futile to convince them because that's how the upbringing has been. So, in a pure ignorance state, they will consider certain personalities to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the real Supreme Personality of Godhead is not given any stature by anybody. So, this is the real mode of ignorance we are in. We are in a total mismatch in terms of what is right, what is wrong. So, whenever a dharma is considered to be adharma, and a adharma is considered to be dharma, that is the mode of ignorance, and we all are in that, because if you go out, you'll see that. So in this case, there is this. So just to back up a little bit, we talked about analysis as per three modes. First, it was 20 to 22 was knowledge in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Then karma, goodness, passion, ignorance. Then karta, the doer, goodness, passion, ignorance. Then buddhi, understanding, which is now. Then next verse, after clarifying, Krishna will talk about dhriti, determination in goodness, passion, ignorance. And then he will talk about happiness in the next three verses in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. So, what is happiness in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance? Before that, we'll talk about determination or action in the mode of goodness. So, coming back to this verse, now that we have given a small overview. So, in this age, if a person is very intellectual, he has many degrees, but he has a style of living wherein he takes to unfavorable method to Krishna consciousness. He indulges in intoxication, he indulges in smoking, he indulges in meat eating. What they will take is, as he's a brilliant scholar, some of these basic attributes will not be looked. And in that method, when a professor with multiple degrees preaches something, there are people who listens. And likewise, if a person who is very pure in his heart, he takes to the regulated method, but he is mostly sitting idle, chanting, people will think that he has no work to do and he is lazy. And this duality is very common in this world. And we're not professing that you be either of the two where you do nothing, but all we're saying is it's very common postulate for a human being to think in a direction which is very much tuned to the karmic way of today's life. Today's life, the yardsticks are very much different. The yardsticks are so different that sometimes it's very difficult for a person to recognize what is good and bad. And always that thought process covers our consciousness, and that's how we tend to drive all our decision making. And that is where, if a person is taking to drinking, and someday he may be a very dangerous person because he is not within his senses, but he is a brilliant researcher, people will still believe that he is good enough. And finally, at the time when this person has demoniac tendencies, when he uses that research against the mankind, it will be too late for the people to recognize. So we have to understand some basic yardsticks of 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 living a life. like you're paying taxes. If you don't pay taxes, you're questioned by by the authorities. And so there are some basic yardsticks which has to be followed in all our dealings, whether it is dealing our day-to-day life. So dharma has to be always protected. If dharma is not protected, there'll be mayhem, and there will be and that is where it is mentioned that when our superiors are not leading us in the right direction, the chances that that bad habit will be inculcated by the subsequent generation, and that will be very difficult for us to contain. That's the reason why when a family member has a person, yadyad acharati srashta, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, yadyad acharati srashta, how the people in position, now the elections are coming and you will be very tuned to the characters of various different um, personalities who are standing in the election. Yadyat Acharya system. However, the leader is going to drive the kind of character he bestows on each of us. It's very difficult for us to rub our shoulder against and sort of idealize the person in office with that character. So that's the reason why the example of dharma, adharma, and adharma, dharma, the example of King Vena is given. We'll speak a little bit about King Vena. King Vena was a descendant of, Manu and Anga king. And when Vena was born, when Vena was born, he was born with a lot of curse. He was his mother was not a s- a conscious person, and his maternal grandfather, his name is Mrityu, or death personified. So King Vena is actually the grandson of Mrityu. So when King Vena was born and he was given, oh sorry, when Vena was born and he was given his position to rule, in spite of so many um, challenges through which there is curses, he was born. He ruled ruthlessly. He was so ruthless as a king that the dacoits and the thieves, they used to hide. They used to hide from king. So uh, he used to kill his subjects. He used to um, preach that he is everything. Hiranyakashipu was patient enough in instilling the fact that he is God himself, and he was not going out killing everybody. During the time of King Vena's ruling, thousands and millions of years ago, everything was in a total disarray. Coronation of Ram is coming up during Diwali when every house will be lighted up. Ram Rajya is going to be assured and going to be celebrated. On the contrary, King Vena's ruling was just opposite to Ram Rajya. What Ram Rajya should not be was King Vena's authoritarian rule he used to. So there was adharma. There was so as we're talking about this verse, dharma was adharma and adharma was dharma in King Vena's ruling. The sages became so it became so difficult for the sages to survive under King Vena's regime that finally the sages came together, and through a curse of putting an object on King Vena, they killed King Vena. And but when King Vena was killed, he didn't had any kids. So who will rule the next? So from there, long story short, from a part of the body of King Vena, Maharaj Prithu emerged, and Maharaj Prithu became one of the sought after personalities in consciousness. And and when we talk about this verse 18.32, where dharma is adharma and adharma is dharma, the top name always taken is King Vena's ruling, which is even more worse than Ravana and Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakya. How a person should lead a kingdom or a subject, how a person should not lead a kingdom or a subject should be taken from King Vena's pastime. And and that example is always given when this verse is talked about, because when something is just opposite to what it is, it's bound to confuse people. And then that's why when Srila Prabhupada was asked about some people who were termed as Mahatmas, Srila Prabhupada had a very sweet answer to Mahatma. Mahatma is a person who has a very top soulful life, a person who has not indulged in the unregulative principles. And if a person who is bestowed the name Mahatma is not controlled within his capability, then he should not be called Mahatma. And that is the reason why some of our basic principles of righteousness has to be taken ahead of others in our ability to decide what is right and what is wrong. So a person, when the basic principles of dharma or religiosity is broken, is violated, and just the opposite is taken as the principle, that leads to chaos. And whenever there is chaos, nowadays you see there is war happening everywhere. And if you look at the basic tenet of each of this war, it is this aspect of the humanities. Religious is tested by the by the people and the elected officials, and that's the reason why that personal ahankar or personal ego comes into picture. And you see everywhere it's the brothers who are fighting against each other. Once upon a time they are part and parcel of the same country, and now they are essentially brothers who were separated 20 years down the line, and now they all are fighting. It's all precisely because they have lost the recognition of what is dharma and what is adharma. And this 18.32 is actually something which reflects very closely to this, to the what is happening. So in our house, if we want, there are a lot of things which are beyond our control. But as a conscious person with knowledge of Krishna consciousness, with knowledge of Vedic scriptures, we all should try our best to uphold dharma. And when dharma is not upheld, there are consequences, as we see in the life of King Vena and so many other personalities. And there is a full um, Srimad Bhagavatam chapter devoted to King Vena and how he massacred his subjects, and how in his time adharma was adharma and adharma was dharma, because they are, it's their villain personified. They're even more villainous than the Ravanas and Kumbhakarnas, because when their personal desire is satisfied, most of them were calm and quiet. But King Vena epitomized volcanic way to hurt people in a way which is unthinkable anywhere. So always in our life we should give dharma a chance, and always treat dharma with dignity and respect, and not switch it around with irreligiosity, which will lead us to very dire consequences. So, with that, like to open up for some discussion on this beautiful verse and how you reflect on this and what you take it away to apply in your personal life. So, with that, like to end here. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any comments, Prabhuji? Reflections?
Prabhuji, one question that I'm just trying to make some sense. So, when God created all beings as equal, right? Human being, animal, everything, right? But
Mm-hmm.
animal, they have their instinct; they will go kill and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And human being, they have their duties and responsibilities to follow through. But how comes? I mean, everybody has their super soul inside them. But how come some people they go in a wrong direction and harm others?
Yeah. So, in the form of animal, there are some basic dharma, like the dharma of salt is to, when it's dissolves in water, it mingles and it has that salty. So, that's the dharma of salt. Likewise, sugar has its own dharma. Likewise, a tiger, for example, to your question, he has a propensity to be a carnivorous. That's how God has created him. So when the tiger ends up killing a deer for his food and he keeps it for some time, that is not adharma. That is not considered adharma for an animal. That's how God has made. Otherwise, if the animal doesn't eat meat, that the carnivorous animal in this example doesn't eat, he's not going to survive. However, what has happened is by virtue of our ability to control others, by virtue of our powers we have developed, we have become like animals. Because what is animal? Animal is somebody who does ahara, bhaya, nidra, maithunancha, eating, mating, sleeping, defending. The thing which differs us from animals is this understanding of the consciousness. See, we all are ahara. We're looking for jobs so that we can give us food. Bhaya, we are fearing that someday something will happen. We all have fear. Nidra, sleeping. Maithunancha, sexual pleasure. But the difference, and the same four applies to animals. What is that which makes us stand apart? Our ability to understand who we are, where we have come from, and what is the relationship. So going back to a question, Prabhu, they are made to do eat carnivorous and eat. That is fine, but we have to stay within the realms of us. And in our scriptures, it is mentioned that we have to be regulated. And in that sense, when we stay unregulated, we are, and that's why Srila Prabhupada says, if we can't give life, especially for human beings, Prabhupada is saying, we can't take life. And that is where that
Correct.
understanding, that difference in understanding has to set in. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna Babuji, Dandavat Pranam. All good, Srila Prabhupada.
All Krishna.
Hare Babuji, I missed out a couple of classes last, I think 2 or 3 classes I missed out due to my family sick. So, Babuji, a nice class, Babuji. Thank you so much. Babuji, for example, let's say I just want to try to understand this modes. So when a person born, right, let's say in mode of ignorance, for example, right? So I mean, all is like, like understanding and happiness, whatever, like from starting from 18.20 till 18.40, right? Like there are for different, you know, parameters,
Modes.
there are different modes, right?
Hmm.
So if a person born in mode of ignorance, then all his parameters are kind of mode of ignorance, or some parameters will be mode of goodness, or mix and match kind of.
Mix and match. See, Prabhu, a person may be born with a mode of ignorance because he is probably born with a different varnashram, and that's the reason why his actions are such. But there are examples, speaking from Vedic injunction, nowadays we all are Shudras in that sense because we are all service providers, which is exactly Sudras. But to your point, a person who is born of, born of goodness are typically Brahmanas, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, or 500 years ago, because they have that mindset, they have the knowledge. Likewise, a person of mercantile nature or business friendly are Vaishyas in the mode of passion, and likewise Sudras are typically mode of ignorance, to your question. So when a person is born with a mode of ignorance, and he, by virtue of his association, by virtue of his knowledge acquisition, he can transcend the modes, and that is possible, and it has happened. So and also during the daytime, when you wake up, Prabhu, in the Brahma Muhurta, we have a good consciousness. We try to chant because our mind is fixed. Our mind is not wavering around. We do not have that bad thoughts for others. But as the day progresses, we get into a meeting, somebody subdues you, and you try to counter, and that naturally, you're intentionally not hurting him, but naturally that uh, consciousness turns to a bit of a passionate, and as the night progresses, when you're feeling sleepy, you are totally ignorant about all. So to answer your question, in our day-to-day life also our consciousness changes very frequently. That's why we have to be always alert, always be clean, always mix with others, so that our surrounding and our association leads us to a path of a mode wherein we can maintain it. Because when you are constantly in the mode of ignorance and passion, your ability to qualitatively lead a mode of goodness life is subdued. And that's the reason why, more and more importantly, we have to try to come back, come back, more like spring. Spring comes back to the origin. It's stretched, and after that, after some time, when the person has done his work and he's stretched, we all are stretched in our lives with our relations, with our job. But once we get an opportunity, we come back and and focus more on aspects which are good in nature. Good in nature is thinking good about others, not thinking bad or negative about others, always thinking that we all are part and parcel of the Supreme, and we should be kind, we should be compassionate. These are traits of mode of goodness. And more we have this kind of ability, and more we have this kind of thought process, we will stay in the realm of mode of goodness. There is a lot of people who are very calm, composed. They are not very much concerned about the rat race we are in this society, and they lead a very
Peaceful life.
composed life, and we all should
And
aspire to do something like that. Is that okay, bro?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, if you see, right, in 18th chapter later, Krishna tells in one of the verse, so whatever modes a person wants, right, if with that same nature he can attain me, okay, if he work for me, I think this one of
Exactly,
the words,
exactly.
right? Let's
Yeah,
say I
yeah.
born in mode of ignorance, right? I can attain, like, I can attain the God if I work in the consciousness of, right, like, uh, uh, is that correct? And
That's right. If
uh,
if you surrender to Krishna in the mode of ignorance also, Krishna will take care of you. Krishna will show you the path. Krishna will give you a guru. Krishna will make arrangements for you to take. So yes, in whatever mode you have come. Yes, there is one verse where Krishna mentioned Urdham Gachanti Sattvata. In the mode of goodness, you go up, and Madhyam, the passion stays where it is. But that aside, but the overarching thing being, if you surrender to Krishna, if you surrender to the Supreme Personality of God, and gradually Krishna will make ways to take you back to himself through this process, which is so outlined beautifully in this through our Guru Parampara and Acharyas. Okay, bro?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, nice.
Also, Prabhuji, two points. Prabhuji, one is the discerning, means the discerning capability. That means to differentiate, like, because this. Thanks for a good class, Prabhuji. Sorry, I forgot. I did not address that. What I want to emphasize here, Prabhuji, is that the discerning capability will come only when we are enlightened. And how we get enlightened is following Krishna consciousness, Prabhuji. So we have to come, if we are in the mode of ignorance, our discerning capacity is very, very, very less. Because I think there is a verse here which tells that those who are in the mode of ignorance, they think they always work with only one state of mind, that whatever I am doing is right. So we lose to differentiate between what is religion, what is irreligion, what is truth, what is not truth. So we have to come out of that mode of ignorance, Prabhuji. So as we come on the mode of ignorance, it is like peeling off an onion, right? Where as we peel an onion, it gets revealed more and more. So that way, similarly, we come from the mode of ignorance, we have to come out. And also, Prabhuji, second point which I wanted to mention is we have to come out of this mode of ignorance. It's a gradual process, Prabhuji. We come from mode of ignorance to mode of passion, from mode of passion to mode of goodness, and from mode of goodness to Shuddha Sattva. So we have to traverse this path. The rate at which we are traversing depends upon our sadhana, Prabhuji. But what I want to emphasize here is that we have to traverse this path from ignorance to passion to goodness to Shuddha Sattva, which will make every point clear to us, that what are the do's and don'ts, what is religion, what is irreligion. Um, these are the two points which I thought, Prabhuji, ki Niranjan Prabhu's question, which we can address, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. So
Transcend basically the
we have to
modes.
transcend. Like earlier, we were pretty much doing what a typical karmi would end up doing. But now that we know, we are making efforts, and we are we're not really indulging in those things. We are indulging in right things. So we are transcending, and as long as that is there, we will definitely prosper in our spiritual life. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Prabhuji, one silly question. So when I try to think between two different personalities, let's say one is the family man who is taking care of his family and also, doing his daily prayer to God in his own ways, compared to a sannyasi, right? So in both the personalities, which personality gets more dharma, or is it equal? Like, how do we distinguish between both, because both have different path to follow, right? And they
Yes.
cannot interchange.
Right. So they have chosen different actions. The sannyasi, or the saintly person who has vowed to stay celibate, and he would like to preach Krishna consciousness or the Vedic scriptures, he has a role to play, and a person who is performing all the good acts as per your example, he is trying to follow it with his ability, with his maturity. As long as both of them keep Krishna in the center, in the pursuit of whatever action they are doing, always cognizant about Krishna, always cognizant about Krishna's devotees, both will attain Godhead. Because Krishna mentions Chaturvarnam Maya Srishtam. That means he has created these four varnas, and sannyas happens to be one, and a householder in the example for you who is following the right path. He's also is one of the bona fide varnas. So both have access to Krishna, and as long as they follow the process, they follow the process, Krishna conscious process in a true sense, without uh, um, without any foolish, without any ulterior motivation, with full commitment, both will attain uh, success in their spiritual life, irrespective of the acts they perform.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Makes sense.
Thank you. So this month is very powerful. Krishna exhibited uh, lot of his childhood pastimes, which is very dear to devotees. So I urge you to take the benefit of offering lamp to Lord Krishna in the form of Damodar. Maybe one day we'll discuss a little bit about the Damodar pastime as we get closer to Diwali, when this pastime happened, when Mother Yashoda is trying to bind, but Krishna is unboundable with the rope. Rope means Dama, and Udara means waist. So
Damodar.
Damodar, with a rope, Krishna is being bound, trying to be bound by Mother Yashoda, but it's always falling short. So Dama, Udara is Damodar. Dama means rope, Udara means waist. And this beautiful pastime has been nicely depicted in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada has written a beautiful uh, purport on that. We can discuss that, and so as such beautiful Krishna, uh, where the whole world cannot conquer, is finally getting bound by mother's love, is unthinkable. This the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who nobody can catch, nobody can see, nobody can access. He is actually giving trouble to Mother Yashoda, and finally not getting bound, and finally with mother's love, when mother surrenders in a very nice way, he surrenders to the mother. So it's a very sweet pastime. Only bhaktas can understand. That's why bhaktas, this Bhakti Yoga is the supreme, because you go after the person who is the supreme, and then the supreme works for you. This is unthinkable in any form of other yogic principles. Only a bhakta can understand. That's the reason why bhaktas don't ask for anything, because they know that if they call with sweetness, Lord is going to come and work for you. So why trouble the Lord? So it's a very strong. So this month brings out the best in your bhakti. Well, every month has its own uh, co- powers of consciousness, but this month especially has a very sweet tinge to it. So do some home program, call some devotees, uh, sing Jagannath Astakam, sorry, Damodar Astakam, and it will be a very sublime experience for all of you. There are a lot of programs, a lot of events this month. We just had Sarat Purnima yesterday, and this culmination of Diwali has so many things. Ramji, coronation of Ramji, Annakut, lifting of Govardhan Hill, Yashoda Damodar pastimes. So many beautiful pastimes happened. So let's make the most of it. Try to attend the Bhakti Vriksha where we share this and have discussion with nice uh, involvement so that we make our life sublime. If there is no other comments and questions, we'll end here. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. Vancha kalpataruvascha kripa sindhu bhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo.
namo namo.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki
The
jai.
key is Jai.
Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Ki
Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki
Gaur
Jai.
Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Prem Jagannath Prabhu ki Jai.